Long before the name America existed, before borders, before cities, before flags, this vast continent breathed in silence. Between 700 and 900 AD, North America was not empty, it was alive. Dense forests stretched endlessly across the east. The Mississippi River carved its way through the heart of the land. Deserts burned under golden suns in the southwest, and along the Pacific coast, ancient cedar forests whispered with ocean winds. This was a world of powerful civilizations history often forget. The rise of the Mississippian world. In the fertile lands near the Mississippi River, something extraordinary was happening. Communities began to organize, villages grew larger, agriculture became advanced. Corn, maize became the foundation of power.
Fields stretched across floodplains. Families worked together under the blazing summer sun. Harvest meant survival. Harvest meant strength. As food production increased, populations grew. And then the mounds began to rise. Massive earth structures, built basket by basket, layer after layer of soil carried by hand. Hundreds worked together, not as slaves, but as a united society. These were not simple hills. They were sacred platforms, symbols of authority and spiritual connection. By around 800 AD, the early foundations of what would later become Cahokia were forming. Chiefs ruled from elevated platforms. Ceremonies were held high above the villages. Trade routes stretched hundreds of miles, shells from the Gulf Coast, copper from the Great Lakes. This was not a primitive world. It was organized, it was political, it was powerful. The desert builders of the Southwest. While the Mississippi world was rising, another civilization mastered survival in one of the harshest environments on Earth. In today's Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado, the Ancestral Pueblo people were building cities in stone. Rain was rare, the land was dry, but they adapted. They created irrigation systems, they harvested rainwater, they learned the rhythms of the desert. Then came the cliff dwellings. High above canyon floors, homes were carved into rock walls, protected, strategic, ingenious. Multi-room complexes housed families and clans. Smoke rose gently from rooftop openings. Chaco Canyon began developing into a ceremonial and trade center. Massive stone buildings aligned with the sun and stars. These were architects, engineers, astronomers. They tracked the movement of celestial bodies. They understood solstices. They aligned structures with cosmic events. In the darkness of the desert night, the sky became their calendar. The forest kingdoms. In the eastern woodlands, life followed a different rhythm. Thick forests provided wood for homes, tools, and weapons. Villages were built near rivers and lakes. Hunting deer, fishing, and gathering wild plants sustained communities. But they were not isolated. Trade connected tribes across vast distances. Obsidian, shell beads, copper tools. Social structures were complex. Spiritual leaders guided ceremonies. Warriors defended territories. In the Pacific Northwest, towering cedar trees shaped an oceanic culture. Longhouses sheltered extended families. Massive canoes cut through ocean waves. Totem poles rose into the misty sky, telling stories of ancestry, spirits, and clan identity. These societies were rich in art, mythology, and social order. Belief, power, and the sky. Across the continent, one thing united these civilizations: spirituality. Nature was sacred. The sun was life. The moon marked time. Animals carried symbolic power. Ceremonial dances echoed through forests. Drums beat under starlit skies. Firelight illuminated painted faces. The spiritual order of the land. Across the vast lands of North America, power did not only come from strength, it came from understanding. The people believed that the world was layered, the physical world of rivers, forests, and mountains, and another world, unseen, spiritual, eternal. Between these worlds stood the priests. Spiritual leaders were not simply religious figures, they were astronomers, healers, advisors to chiefs, guardians of sacred knowledge. When drought struck, they interpreted the signs of the sky. When illness spread, they performed rituals beside sacred fires. When crops were planted, they chose the correct moment, guided by the stars. To them, the universe was not silent, it spoke. Through the movement of constellations, through eclipses, through the rising of the sun on the longest day of the year. Massive structures were aligned carefully with celestial events. In the southwest, buildings captured beams of sunlight during solstices. In the Mississippi Valley, ceremonial spaces were oriented toward cosmic directions. These were not accidents, they were calculations passed down through generations. Observation after observation, century after century. Children learned from elders. Knowledge flowed like the rivers. The sky became a map of destiny. The rhythm of daily life. But beyond ceremony and power, life continued in quieter ways. Children ran between homes made of wood, clay, and stone. Women prepared meals of maize, beans, and squash, the three sisters that sustained entire societies. Hunters tracked deer through forests. Fishermen cast nets into rivers glowing under morning light. Artisans carved intricate designs into stone and bone. Pottery was shaped with care, each pattern telling a story of clan and identity. Communities gathered during harvest seasons. Songs echoed across fields. Drums synchronized heartbeats. The continent was not chaotic. It had a rhythm tied to nature's cycles. Trade routes of a hidden world. Though separated by forests, deserts, and mountains, these civilizations were not isolated. Trade networks stretched across astonishing distances. From the Gulf Coast came seashells. From the Rocky Mountains came obsidian. From the Great Lakes came copper. Goods traveled by canoe along rivers, by foot across vast plains. Ideas traveled too. Architectural techniques, religious symbols, artistic styles. The continent pulsed with interaction. It was a connected world. Long before modern highways, there were invisible roads of culture and commerce. Power and social order. As populations expanded, leadership structures became more complex. Chiefdoms formed. Certain families held authority, often believed to possess divine favor. Mounds were not just platforms, they symbolized hierarchy. The higher the structure, the closer to the heavens. Yet leadership required balance. A chief who failed to protect or provide could lose respect. Authority depended on prosperity, and prosperity depended on land.
Priests and spiritual leaders acted as intermediaries between worlds. The cosmos was not distant, it was personal. Alignments of buildings with the sun and stars revealed deep astronomical knowledge. These were not random constructions. They reflected intelligence, planning, and belief systems rooted in centuries of observation. Conflict and alliances. With growth came competition. Land meant food. Food meant power. Some regions saw conflict between tribes. Fortified villages appeared, but alliances also formed. Marriage ties, trade agreements, shared ceremonies. The continent was dynamic, not static. Cultures evolved, adapted, shifted. By 900 AD, North America was a mosaic of complex societies, each with its own language, its own gods, its own identity. Conclusion: the forgotten foundations. When Europeans would eventually arrive centuries later, they would not find an empty land. They would encounter civilizations thousands of years in the making, builders of mounds, masters of stone cities, navigators of oceans and forests. Between 700 and 900 AD, America was already alive, organized, spiritual, powerful. This was America before America, a world too often overlooked, but never truly gone. Its legacy still stands in ancient earthworks, cliff dwellings, and sacred landscapes, silent yet enduring.